So have you guys ever wondered how the We Buy Houses guys work? Well, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for today's show because I'm going to break down how those We Buy Houses purchase your home cash quickly, 7 days or less, and all of the good things that We Buy Houses do to help people who want to sell their homes super quick. So stay tuned, keep watching the show. Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and today we are going to be talking about those We Buy Houses guys. You've seen the signs on the sides of the road or the big billboards that say We Buy Ugly Houses, and you've probably wondered, how do those guys work? Like, they claim they can buy quickly, they claim they have cash, they claim they have the ability to fund your transaction really fast. And the reality is they do. They absolutely do. And so we're going to dive into how all of that works so that you guys can understand in case you find yourself in a situation where you need to liquidate or sell your house fast. You know, Tony Robbins always talks about you get to decide if you're in a good mood or in a bad mood, if you're happy, if you're sad. It's a choice. I mean, there are things that will happen that could create sadness, but you get to decide and choose if you want to stay there. Now, obviously, there's some things that are more sad than others, and so it might be a little bit more difficult than others to, I remember when I lost, one of my best friends in an accident, it was very difficult to choose not to be sad. I was extremely sad. But for the most part, your average day-to-day things are not that big of a deal that you can choose. As Tony Robbins says, you can choose to just be happy. Focus on what you have and ignore what you don't have and choose to be happy. So anyways, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving and wanted to dive into now the whole We Buy Houses kind of scenario, because I get asked a lot. When I share with people, yeah, I buy houses and I can close quickly, and they're always fascinated by that. Like, okay, so what do you guys do? How do you guys buy houses and plural and so quickly and don't have to, how do you get those loans to fund so fast? Because if you've ever bought a house, you know that your typical transaction takes, probably 30 to 45 days to fund, right? And so you've got a loan that you've applied for, and you're constantly talking to your loan officer, your mortgage broker. They're constantly asking you for more things and new things, and then you got to get your appraisal, and you got a due diligence period, and then before you know, like 35 days later, you finally get your loan, and the We Buy Houses guys claiming they can close in as little as 24 hours if need be. How does that loan work? And so let's talk about this. So you obviously, as I mentioned, you're going to see the billboards out on the street. We buy ugly houses. We buy houses. You're going to see they call them bandit signs that are in the at each intersection that say I buy houses, call me, and we buy houses, call me. And basically it's for people that are in a position that obviously need to get their funds quickly, or they're just in a position that they don't want to go through the home selling process of, hundreds of buyers walking through the home for whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons why people don't want to do that. Now, if you're not in a hurry, right? If you're not in a hurry to sell for whatever reason, you've got time, then probably putting it on the open market, finding the buyer who's going to take 30 to 45 days to get his long loan is probably better for you, because you're probably going to be able to net more funds. And it all depends, too, on the condition of the home. So if your home's in good condition, as I probably should have stated, if your home's in good condition and you don't need to hurry, then you're probably going to net more putting it on the open market out to every buyer out there and getting someone who's going to get a traditional loan. Now, if you are, let's say, in a hurry, or your home is that you're trying to sell, in rough shape, maybe you inherited it from grandma and grandpa who just passed away, who are hoarders, and unfortunately in their latter days they didn't maintain the home very well, and there's leaky roofs and holes in the walls and leaky faucets and dated electrical in there, and just you know we don't want to call it garbage because obviously grandma and grandpa loved that stuff and that's why they kept it. But as you start to go through it, you realize most of it is garbage, and now the task becomes so overwhelming. You're like, what are we going to do with all of this quote unquote garbage? You're going to go through and obviously get the stuff that you feel isn't garbage, but now you've got, and I think the worst house I ever purchased as far as a hoarder house was 5 30-yard dumpsters of garbage. And the house was in super rough condition, just to share with you, like, unfortunately, there was not a lot of funds to maintain the house towards the latter days of these people who passed, but the sellers were like, okay, we're done. We've literally gone through as much as we want to go through because we're tired of going through all this piles of stuff. And as you can imagine, it was originally a 4-bedroom home, and all 4 bedrooms literally had stuff stacked above my head. So when you walked in, and you opened the door, there were things stacked up in all 4 bedrooms, up to higher than my head. I mean, it was ridiculous how much stuff was saved in there. And so this family, of course, is trying to go through it, and as they're transferring some of the stuff from one bedroom to the next bedroom to see if they can find any treasures that they want to keep, it just got too much after several years. They said, yeah, I think we've got everything that we can recall that we would want to take from this house, so we want to obviously sell it, but this is not a house you're going to put in the open market because you couldn't even walk. I mean, you could, but the family realized that most people who were going to walk through that house were going to just walk right out because you couldn't even walk through the house, right? You opened the front door and there were just trash piled up to the, up, like I said, past my head, right there in the living room, and the kitchen was, just the same. Every room was the same except for the bedrooms had the most, right? And then forget about the basement. You walk down to the basement and it was like, holy cow. So anyways, it took 5 dumpsters, and this is the type of transaction where someone's like, hey man, we are done with this house. We'd like to sell it. We heard you're a cash buyer. We heard that you buy houses like this, and so would you be open to entertaining this particular property? And so we went and looked at it, and of course, we were able to give them their funds within a week, and they just wanted to be done with it as quickly as possible. And so those are the types of scenarios that I think if you find yourself in where you're just like, yeah, I don't want to do any repairs, because a lot of sellers initially think they're going to take out all the trash. They're going to then patch it up. They're going to paint and carpet it, and they're going to fix it up so that they can get top dollar on the market. But when they realize that how expensive it's going to cost to remodel, and they don't have the funds to do it or the time to do it, it gets to a point where they're just like, yeah, let's just turn around and sell it to a we buy houses guy, for instance. And so basically that's kind of the scenario. Is those are probably typically, I wouldn't say always, because there are people that also have the beautiful home that an associate, I guess a colleague or a friend, somebody I know. How about that? I'm trying to think of what the right word is. Probably an associate is probably the better word. I don't work with him, but I know him, and he recently purchased a beautiful $700,000-$800,000 home in Lehigh, and that was not a hoarder house. That was not trashed. Unfortunately, in that situation, the sellers were basically in foreclosure, and they thought that they were going to be able to come up with the money to pay the back payments that they were behind to stop the foreclosure, so they never put the home on the market. They thought, because they didn't want to sell it, they were like, we'll figure out how to raise the money, get the money, borrow the money, somehow come across the money to pay off the bank the amount of money that we're behind. And they were quite behind. I mean, you can imagine a beautiful $700,000-$900,000 house there in the Lehigh Highland area. Probably has a pretty hefty payment, and they hadn't made it in half a year. But they were pretty confident that they were going to come up with the funds until obviously the week of. And then that week, when they couldn't come up with the funds to bring the back payments, they were going to get foreclosed on. Their auction was literally that week. And so this individual that I happen to know, We Buy Houses guy, ended up helping them because they were, you know, if they were going to sell, they needed to sell someone who could pay for the house before Friday, because the auction was on Friday, and I think it was like Tuesday. And so he had to do a very quick closing, fund the transaction, and basically purchase that property just to help those individuals avoid the foreclosure. And I hope you all have a spectacular rest of the day. All right, let me hit pause right here. So we just wrapped up the show, as you heard. Got a big announcement where I'm now going to be doing Good Things Utah starting in January. I'm not renewing my contract here at K-Talk Radio because we're going to transition from radio to television. So a lot of exciting things happening in 2021. Definitely stay tuned to this channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this video, and you can also find me on other social media platforms like Snapchat, LinkedIn, all the ones I already mentioned. And I hope you guys enjoyed this show, learning about the We Buy Houses as well as some tips on renovation.
Okay, before we part ways, in case you have a dog or know someone else who does have a dog, I wanted to take a quick second to show you the Snap Leash. The Snap Leash can literally do so many things, and I'm going to share with you one of the many cool things that it can do. As you can see, the Snap Leash is designed with 2 swivel hooks, one on each end. This end has a cushion stitched into it to make it comfortable when walking your dog. Now, all you have to do is take this swivel hook, put it into this very first grommet, and now you've got your handle. Okay, so now let's imagine you're at the park and you want to secure your pet quickly, safely, and easily to a park bench, a tree, or a pole because you just want to sit down and relax. Well, all you need to do is take this swivel hook, remove it from the very first grommet, wrap this leash around any size tree or pole or park bench, and put it into the appropriate grommet. And now you have secured your pet quickly, safely, and easily. And when it's time to head home, another great feature about the Snap Leash is you can simply wrap it around your waist for hands-free walking. Lastly, if you ever accidentally forget your waist bags at home, these grommets make a great place to fasten the waist bags so you never leave home without them. And if you want to see all of the other cool things that the Snap Leash can do, then please just click on the link below and find out why so many others are falling in love with the Snap Leash.